Hey Achievers, welcome to this monthly expert interview. I'm so happy to be talking today to Hannah Tönnissen. She's the founder of the Multipassionate. And I just feel like so many people in our community have a million interests, right? When you feel scattered over so many things that you want to do in your life and you just don't know what to make your hobby from or what to make your job from. And you want to do it all at once, but then you actually push yourself into some kind of burnout because you have so many interests, right? And I feel so many high achievers recognize themselves in that. So Hannah, you are a multi-passionate yourself. Please introduce yourself. What's all the things that you are doing?
Thank you, Maya. So I'm Hannah. I am indeed a multi-passionate. I am from the Netherlands originally, living in Belgium and the Netherlands, both actually, because my boyfriend is also from Belgium. So actually met Maya this summer in Belgium as well, which is really cool. Yeah, I am basically a coach for multi-passionates to help them design a life around their passions through productivity trainings, through helping them find focus and purpose, and through helping them start a freedom-based online business so that they have more freedom and time to focus on all of their passions. Next to that, I also work as a VA, virtual assistant, for multi-passionate entrepreneurs, mostly coaches as well, where I really help them mostly with their processes and tech and making sure that they actually have more automatizations and that they have more time also to focus on their zone of genius and have more time next to their business to also follow everything that they want to pursue.
Nice. And you're a yoga teacher as well, right?
Also, yeah, true. Yeah, not super actively though at the moment. So I did give two classes last week, which was the first time in a long time. Something I really want to pick up more. Actually, I'm also applying for becoming a yoga teacher on an online app. So yeah, that's also something I do. And actually, also, I just got my my VAT number to as a photographer as well. So I just need an upgrade of my camera, but I used to really love doing shoots with people, and it's something I would love to implement into maybe my coaching. So help people to actually get a nice first shoot to put on their socials, on the website, etc.
So yoga teacher, photographer, coach, virtual assistant, a million things, right? And I'm so glad I found you just on Instagram, really, when really for myself, because I'm a multi-passionate myself as well. I'm a health coach here. I have the Healthy High Achievers community. I'm a singer in the evenings. I have another passion that not many people know. I'm a certified astrologer. I'm kind of like saying, how do I fit that into here? Do I want to make it my job or just my hobby? And so I really want people to walk away with something from this interview of how to. I saw one of your Instagram stories of when you were giving people an exercise, right, of how they can really decide which passion to pursue as a hobby, as a job. And I want to dive into that. But first, I just want to know, how did you come up with this idea to work with multi-passionates?
Um, that's a good question, actually. I think it was just for me um, a logical step, because I was like in that phase that I was very confused about what I wanted to do. I actually had a coach who taught me a lot of things about online entrepreneurship, but I basically just got shiny object syndrome. I was like, okay, I can do so many things. I like so many things. I don't know what to focus on. And I just was like, okay, what? This is actually also maybe an answer to your question, as a good, you know, lead on, what should you follow professionally, what you should leave as a hobby. I asked myself, like, what have I been doing all along? And I am literally meaning doing, because it's so important to focus on the activity when you want to make it your profession and not just the passion. So, if you love to, if you have passion for horses, that's something different than having a passion for training people or training horses, for example. Um,
Mm.
so I was like, well, I have been a teacher all along. Like, I've been a tutor in like mathematics and economics during my high school and my university years. I was always the one helping my classmates with things. I like to stand in front of a group and to explain things. And I was like, okay, well, I want to do something with, course creation or coaching or, teaching people stuff. And then I was like, well, but what am I going to teach? Because there's so many things I like, right? And they all say like, oh, you have to focus, you have to find a niche. And then I was like, well, I want to teach productivity, which is a big passion of mine. I want to teach helping people find purpose or more focus, because that's what I was able to do it myself as well. And I really like to help people to start something online as well. And also because I had experience in that. So I was like, how can I combine it together? And I was like, well, I'm just going to help multi-passionates because they need all of that. And basically what I did is I just decided to choose a multi-passionate niche so that I had, different things to put into my business.
Yeah, and that's genius, because I often hear friends say like, hey, I have these many interests and I don't know how to combine it all, professionally. If I leave my full-time job, I don't know how to. I love writing, but I also love creating natural products, and I also love, so yeah, I recently heard a friend say that. And then, I was kind of coaching her around that, and she came up with maybe writing about her natural products, just how to really make the puzzle. But it's so interesting that you say that you need to focus on. So first step, focus on something you're doing, right? Not just because you say you've been teaching mathematics, but you've been teaching several things. And in the essence of that is just the fact of teaching. And that teaching is what you knew that you wanted to be doing, not really the what or the specific, but just the action that you love doing. Is that right?
Exactly. It's very important to focus on that, because you want to be happy with the process and not just the result. Like if you are in a job or if you're doing something that you're like, okay, well, I love it when I have made a beautiful picture, but I don't love the process of it. I don't love the editing. I don't love going to shoots. Then you shouldn't become a photographer, right? Maybe it's something you want to learn more about or do in your free time. And I think that's something that people sometimes forget. And also to get more specific, as an answer to your question, is that it's not only important to focus on, the doing of it, like a passion for doing something, but it's also important to realize what is the reason behind why you love doing that thing. Well, that was a complicated sentence. What's the reason behind your passion for traveling, for example, or for writing? Because I made the mistake to think that, I love writing, I love traveling, I love photography. Let's start a travel blog, right? Perfect. Combines all of that. Made sense. Like superficially, that makes sense. But then I discovered that I didn't love writing when I had to write about, travel tips or transport tips or tips about hotels or tours or whatever. Like I just like to write stories. And if you want to make like money with a blog, then you cannot just, well, technically it's going to be hard to just write stories only, like about people, about experiences, how you feel. Like that's something that you can do in Instagram posts as a coach, but not so much as if you really want to have a successful travel blog, because people want to read tips, right? They want to know what they can do. Second thing is that traveling, when I asked myself, like, why do you love traveling so much? It was because it made me feel free. It made me feel, alive and free. And when I was making that into a job and I had to travel or make trips or do that kind of stuff to, make money, I completely lost the joy of it. I was like, well, now I have to write a blog in this hotel quickly and before tomorrow, because then we go to the next place and I have more content to write. And that was not fun.
That's interesting how you discovered that you have a passion for traveling, but once you found a job in that, traveling, writing blogs, once you were doing it, you kind of lost the joy, because you realized that the aspect that you love about traveling is that freedom, right? And once you have to do it, you lost that. So that requires a lot of self-knowledge and self-reflection. And how do you help people in this? Because I know in your 90-day program, you have a process for this, right? I saw it in one of your Instagram stories that you have a really good exercise for this. So can you give us a little taster of how people can get there?
So you mean like the 5-step process, like the 5 modules of my course, or more like the specific exercise around passion and rewards?
Yeah, that specific exercise. I love that one.
Yeah. So yeah, basically what I just said, like what you want to do is basically create a list of everything that you love doing. So all of your passions, your hobbies, and also the things that you used to do in the past, like everything. Just put everything out there. It's probably going to be a really long list. Like for me, it was,
Yeah.
I don't know, like 20, 25, 30 things. I'm not even sure. But and then the second thing you do is, like, if you do this in Excel or something, like or on just some paper, you make a second column, and after, like, behind all of the passions and hobbies, you write down what is your favorite part about this thing. All right, so for example, just to give you an example, if you write down traveling, like, what's your favorite part? And for me, what I would have written down was going from one place to the other, and going to a completely new place and feeling that freedom, especially when I was at the back of a car or the back of a motorbike, or like in movement, literally, I would feel like so free. But so the third step is actually, so what about it do you love? Sitting on the back of a motorbike, being in movement, and then answer any question in the third column. So what's the reward? And for me, that was, feeling free. So basically, you answer 2 questions. So first, what part of the activity do you love most? And then you can probably derive from that the reward. And those rewards, that's what's really important in your life and what you should implement into your life. And you're going to see that probably a lot of your different passions are going to give you the same reward, which is really interesting, because we as multi-passionates get super overwhelmed sometimes, because we think we have to, fit everything into our life. And we find a new passion every week. Like, oh, now we love bullet journaling, and then we love painting, and then, like, we love, knitting. Like, we find a new hobby, but maybe all of those creative hobbies kind of have the same reward. And it was just a matter of having maybe one hobby at a time in your life that gives you that reward, and make sure that you have some other things in your life that gives you the other rewards. And that's what creates a fulfilling life, not specifically, having all these separate objects, these separate hobbies and interests in your life.
That's so interesting, because we do focus on those activities, right? And we do focus on the same thing. So I feel like listening to the replay of this afterwards and the podcast, because to do this exercise myself, because I'd be interested to see if the rewards would be the same, for all my interests. And I see it with my clients as well, and with members of Healthy High Achievers, when they're trying to set priorities, right? You want to set priorities for the coming 3 months, and then the whole time those priorities get interrupted with so many new shiny objects, so many new online courses or new podcasts, or their list of books that they want to read is like huge. I know the feels. And it's interesting when you look at all your interests, everything you love doing, or everything that's kind of distracting you from your priorities, what do they all have in common, right? What reward are they all giving you?
Yeah, it's like most of the people that do this exercise, they get like a big aha moment. They're like, okay, now this is so interesting. Now I get it. Now I feel, people start to feel calmer, because they're like, oh, well, this is what actually matters to me. Like, not all those separate things, but those things. And then it's just a matter of, and also you're going to see that those rewards are things that are more general, like freedom, like authenticity, or like creative pursuits, or stuff that is easier to make sure that you embed all of that in your life than all of those separate things. So you will start to feel a lot calmer.
Yeah, interesting. And can you give us a couple of tips of when they're sitting there with their paper, looking at their rewards, looking at their whole list of activities and hobbies, and still thinking like, okay, but what do I start my business around, or what do I focus on professionally? Can you give us a tip for specifically that?
Yeah. So then it goes back to focusing on like finding that activity that you really enjoy. And I also, maybe the term zone of genius. So basically what I think is your zone of genius is an activity like, writing, singing, organizing, management, whatever, leadership. Those are still really broad, but can be more specific. But then, and it's like the intersection of what you love doing, what you're also good at doing, and what you're also have experience in. It's where those three things come together. And for me, for example, I love teaching. It's something I naturally do. I am good at it. Like, I come from a teacher's family, and my mom always said that, like, okay, you're good at that. And then I also have experience with it. So I actually already tried it a couple of times, and it's something that came back all through my life. And that's what you should base the main focus of your business around. So, if writing is in your zone of genius, your main thing that you're going to sell should be about writing. So maybe you're a copywriter or a ghostwriter, or maybe you want to start a blog, or you want to write about stories, or can be anything. But the most important thing is that like 60, 70, 80% of what you're doing in your job should be your zone of genius. And sometimes there's a combination of things, right? If you have a combination of things, for example, you are like me, I'm a teacher. I'm also a tech, someone who organizes the backend, and I'm also organizing is in my zone of genius, creating structure. And then writing is also my zone of genius. So I do that also for other people. So that's just a combination in different things that I do. But that should be the core of your business. And then, yes, whatever niche you want to focus on, like I always say, there's probably a lot of niches that you could be happy in as long as you're interested in it. And for choosing a niche, you can look at just your passion. So if you are interested in photography, but you are not a really good photographer, you don't have a lot of experience, and it's not what you want to make your job around, then you can still decide to work for photographers, or be a coach for photographers, or whatever. Like there's a lot of options there, or a virtual assistant for photographers, or or if you like horses, for example, you can also focus on horse owners, or stuff like that. That's how I usually say, like, that's how you can decide on your niche. And the most important thing is that you also should not worry too much about making a choice in that, because it's not forever. I think a lot of the perfectionists are like, oh, no, I have to choose a niche, and I hate niching, and I don't want to do it, or I don't want to focus because I like everything. And I'm like, sure, like do your thing. Like if you want to focus on all of those things, it's great. It's just easier for your marketing if you do focus a little bit, and you can still change that. If you are sick of the horses, you just change to something else later.
Yeah, when we talk about niche and like, okay, you need to choose something specific, it's a process as well. And the first time you're trying to niche, it will still be very broad. My niche was fatigue. And fatigue is still very, very broad. And then the more you think about it and reflect on it, the more specific it will get. So it's like, yeah, I get it. Many people in our crowd here are perfectionists who will first not want to make a choice because they think it's set in stone and they think it's forever and it can change. It can. So whatever choice you make it's always temporary. It's never forever, forever, forever. Could be, but not always. And then secondly, what I thought of when you said, okay, something you have experience in, what I want to say to my achievers here is, hey, you have more experience than you think. Because sometimes when we get perfectionistic about it, we could be like, oh, but I don't have experience. And I felt that when I started coaching and I finished my health coaching certification program, and I was ready to get to it. And then I felt like I don't have any experience. This is new. Until a friend of mine said, Maya, you've been coaching me ever since we were 15 years old. You were my personal coach in life, Then I realized, okay, this is something that's just inherently, naturally a part of me that I naturally do with people. and I see the potential in people and I help them get it out of them. And, it's something I've always been doing. And sometimes we don't realize that experience we have is more than we think. So thank you, Hannah, for this really good exercise. I think this interview is full of these practical tips and exercises that people can do when they feel scattered over their passions and interests. And just last questions, where can people find more about you, or what are you working on right now?
I'm actually working on my website at the moment, so it will be finally, after 2 or 3 years, it will be online. So it's themultipassionate.com, very easy. And then you can mostly find me on Instagram at the.multipassionate. I had to think about that. Yeah. And that's it. Mostly active there.
Multipassionate. True. Yeah, people definitely follow her on Instagram, because I love watching her stories, the practical tips that she gives all the time, and your posts are just very inspiring. So thank you for that. Thank you for the work you're doing. Thank you for the tips you're giving to healthy high achievers, and just keep up the good work, really.